Florida Governor Ron DeSantis on Monday announced a new law to counter violent protests that have rocked the state and country since the police custody death of George Floyd in late May. DeSantis' announcement came during a press conference at the Polk County Sheriff's Office, the Orlando Sentinel reported. Under the new law, anyone found guilty of throwing objects at police and law enforcement officers would be subject to a minimum 6-month jail sentence. It also imposes felony penalties for protesters who block roadways, topples monuments, or harasses people. There's going to be a ton of bricks raining down on you, DeSantis said of protesters who break the law. Florida, like many other states, has experienced weeks of protests that often turned into violent confrontations with police. The death of Floyd has prompted many far-left activists to call for defunding the police. Florida's new law, however, would target cities that try to go down that path. This is a very robust package, the Republican governor said. I think what it is saying is we're not going to let Florida go down the road where some of these places have gone. The law would categorize violent protests and looting as third-degree felonies. Anyone arrested during protests would not be eligible for bail before their initial court hearing, and anyone convicted from outside Florida would receive extra penalties. Furthermore, any municipality that tried to defund the police will not receive state funding. Republican lawmakers are pushing legislation to hold the rioters accountable. The legislation comes down hard on Pelosi, Democrats, and their unruly far-left district attorneys. Today, U.S. Congresswoman Debbie Lesko and ranking member of the House Committee on the Judiciary, Jim Jordan, introduced the Holding Rioters Accountable Act of 2020 to hold the rioters responsible for destruction across our nation accountable for their actions and ensure local officials do not turn a blind eye to the chaos in our cities. We have laws in our country for a reason, and if cities and states choose not to uphold them, they should not be rewarded with money from federal grants, said Congresswoman Lesko following the introduction of the bill. I hope this bill will incentivize cities and states to follow the law and hold rioters accountable. There is no place in our nation for this lawlessness. The bill grants the Attorney General the authority to withhold up to 10% of Department of Justice grants from cities and states where prosecutors are failing to prosecute crimes arising from riots and other violent protests. The DOJ is responsible for determining prosecutorial misconduct for the purposes of implementing this legislation. Chaos and violence have no place in American cities, said Ranking Member Jordan. It's time for Democrats to denounce violent left-wing extremism, reject efforts to defund the police, and hold anarchists and criminals accountable for their lawlessness.